So for YouTube, we basically built here just to search YouTube for AutoHotkey. I'm going to guess roughly 390 videos on AutoHotkey of doing different things. Mine are mostly web scraping, API calls, string manipulation, regular expressions, then using Excel, Outlook, and the web scraping. So that's the vast majority of what mine cover. But there are other channels that are really good. I learned a ton from his name on the forums, Raptor X, but on YouTube it's AHK Toots, Tuts, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from watching his videos. They're more advanced topics and good stuff. I'm trying to remember his name. Hellbent, but his Civ Reborn, I think, is the name of it. But he has, I'd say, maybe like 100 videos, maybe more, on just building GUIs with AutoHotkey, and a lot of them are at first they were really long, and it was very in-depth, but then he started making them bite-sized, which are great because you can go in and study one little thing and watch a 5-minute video on it. And so I really like his stuff. And there are other channels. So I would definitely say it's great because reading code, like on the forum or any of the other ones, where you can read what's there, but you don't get an actual, because most people don't annotate very much, right? And in videos, a lot of people, at least I try to, explain the code as I taught, work through it, explaining it. And it's just, you can see it live, and the people run the code and then change something and run the code. It's dynamic, or it's being developed dynamically, and it can help, I think, you really grasp the process of what's happening in it. And so that's why I generally don't make forum posts. I will post my code in the forum, but I almost always have a video behind it explaining what I did and how it works, because I find it a much better way for me to learn things and easier to follow.
Yeah, I think I also believe that it's way easier to sit there, have something, you might even know which command you want to use or which variable or what function, and searching for that. Still, this day and age, it's much more easy for Google bots and stuff like that to skim all of the code on Google or on the forum or Stack Overflow or whatnot. Whereas with YouTube, you might get a lot of hits that are a bit off from what you exactly need. So you might need to actually sit there and look through maybe something that takes 15 minutes or half an hour, and then end up finding out that it didn't really cover your exact issue. So next video, right? So as soon as you have a general interest in a specific AutoHotkey topic, you might want to know more of how to automate Excel with AutoHotkey. Great videos on YouTube on doing that. I know that you have some, at least, Joe. So good if you know the general topic, but maybe not as easy if you have a very specific.
The flip side of that, I think it's interesting, because you made me start thinking about it, was because I know, and I don't do probably a good enough job, but on my YouTube videos, I can, of course, add tags. And so often I'll add the tag, the actual name of the function I leverage or something. But I add a lot more tags around the concepts of what I'm trying, what's in the video. And on the forum, when you search, you're often trying to search for the specific command or something, and yet maybe you don't know what that is, right? Sometimes, actually, before we started our call, I don't know what to call it. That save button that I was asking if you had ever automated clicking it? What is that thing called, right? I didn't know how to search for it because I didn't even know what to call it. And so I think that's one of the advantages of in YouTube is you can actually have tags, and people, if they're good about it, will put in other terms that might be more human friendly on how you think about it versus the actual name of the function that you may or may not know.
Yeah, and again, that depends on maybe the level of the person searching,
Agreed.
or the need that the person has. If you have an idea, or if you are going in a specific way and something is not working as expected, you might search for that command that you're using that isn't doing as you would expect. And if you're instead sitting there having a problem that you wish you could solve somehow, then having more thought words like the ones that you describe will make good sense for someone who doesn't really know which code to use to solve the issue. You will be able to find a video like that much easier, because he would be totally unknowledgeable on which command to use to, let's say, connect to Excel or whatever it might be. So yeah, it makes good sense to have both things out there, because the forum has less of that and much more code posted with some kind of question. And the questions are not often well explained. It's mostly code posted with a simple question that follows. So I have this code, why doesn't it work? And for someone to search that isn't really easy if he doesn't know some code thing to search for, because that code command will be in the posted code that the guy made, but it will not be in his question text. Whereas with the YouTube tags that you explained, the way to do it might be in the video, but the idea of what is done is in the tag. So
Incidentally, off topic, I saw Google has an API where you can tell it to go look at this video and search for terms like, let's say, baseball, and it now can using artificial intelligence go through and understand, oh, here's a baseball diamond, here's a mention of a baseball, here's about pitching, and actually tied where in the video that is. I mean, it's amazing what a world we live in, right? So I think at some point that might be more easily accessible, and open that up.
Of course, it makes a lot of sense for someone like Google to really, they own their own YouTube.
Yeah.
It is one of, I can't remember, it's the second or third largest search engine on the planet.
Yeah.
So maybe some Asian one is maybe number 2, but who knows? At least it's way up there, the amount of searches made on YouTube each day. So if they are able to better determine what a video is about, that's a great asset for them. That's for sure. And I can see back when I was just finishing up public school, I had a program that was able to read Danish text for me because I was so bad at reading. And it was, let's say, it was able to read it okay, but the text had already been pre-processed, so it couldn't just read a web page for me. It could read text that was almost predefined what words were to be said. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't, it was trying to say the sounds that the letters had in a word, and it just didn't sound very well. And if you remember, let's say 5 years ago, when a phone, an Apple phone or whatever, if you asked that to read something for you, or if it was giving you directions and it was trying to say street names, it wasn't really that good at it.
Sure.
But now it's becoming almost indistinguishable from a real person saying it. Yeah. And if I wanted, I do it sometimes when I'm in my car and I'm driving home and I need to text my wife something, there's a red light. So instead of actually sitting there and texting, I'd hold down my home button, it will start recording, Siri will come up. I'll just tell her, send message to my wife, and then talk the message. And I'd say it's more than 80% correct in my native language.
That's awesome.
Which I'd say it might even be higher now. But that's just, it's amazing what's happening on that front as well.
Agreed. And incidentally, Jackie and I just counted them. It looks like about 30 webinars that are on YouTube, and those are all on, various topics. And so generally it's like roughly 2 hours worth of, somewhat in depth, depending on the topic, teachings on how to do like web scraping or API calls or regular expressions or Excel and Outlook. And we got 30 different topics roughly that we go in depth on. And so those are all on YouTube.
Yeah, with an extra hour of Q&A.
Yeah.
Most of the time on some
topic. Yeah.
Topic. Yeah.
The next one is Jack's AutoHotkey blog. So Jack has Jack Dunning. He has several books. What I'd say about 4, roughly. Maybe?
Yeah, at least he had 4 when I checked, and that's at least years ago.
Okay.
He should still have 4 or more.
Maybe, yeah. Now, generally speaking, they're very entry level, but they're good stuff, right? It's especially depending on the how you like to learn. He has lots of and he covers things repetitively, I guess is the other. So there's if you're trying to learn a hotkey, right? Trust me, you will learn how to use hotkeys like there's no tomorrow if you study his site. And there's other stuff. Right.
I remember when I first made my own site, and Jack was maybe the only real competitor who had something that was blog-like, because you had our hotkey, you had Stack Overflow, you had all of those, but they were much more, not someone sitting down and saying, see here, this is how you do this tutorial type of stuff. And Jack was the only one who was doing it. And I sat down, I had some topics I wanted to type out, but maybe I'm not that inclined to sit there and type out tutorials. It was interesting, but Jack, he's a machine. It's just amazing how much content, and he has even set down his tempo now compared to when I first started out. He was maybe posting almost daily at one point. But yeah, it is, some of it, you could call it repetitive. It covers topics that he has mostly covered before, but from some small different angle, or how can you use this for this separate small thing, or if you wanted to add,
I think the beauty of it, though, is it's mostly for noobs, people new to AutoHotkey, and it's with anything, right? The more specific the example is that's relevant to my needs, the more likely it is I'll spend a little time learning it. So I think I'm really grateful that he does it, because it brings in, I think, more people into AutoHotkey because they find something that's really, really close to exactly what they're trying to do, right? And it just helps them learn.
Yeah, and that's the exact thing, right? So I could easily make a tutorial on how to make a hotkey, but it would either be on something that others would never need, or on something that was too general for us to actually hit long tail keywords and stuff like that. Whereas with the stuff that Jack does, he really goes into the topic and really types it out, so to speak. Goes really, really meticulous. Might be a word to use. Is that a good word?
It is. I was thinking, and I'm trying to write, what is it when you say copious? Copious means a lot of, right? And that's what to me it's like. He really, the depth of over and over, just from redundancy of covering things. It's good stuff. And the other one I'd say is I bought most of his books. The regular expression book was a really good one, because I also like to have a physical book, so I printed it out and read through it, and it really helped me learn. I shouldn't say learn regular expressions, but learn using regular expressions within AutoHotkey. Help really get me some fundamental concepts down. So I liked that book. And then actually, you mentioned a minute ago, Jack, you have your site, jszapp.com.
Yeah.
I know that was incidentally, so Jackie years ago was answering questions on the forum for me. And then finally, and this is like after, I'd say at least 2 years, maybe a year and a half, somewhere in there, I noticed he had in a signature a link to a site, which I clicked through and realized he had his own website with his AutoHotkey tutorials. And so I think it was there that I wrote you to your site because I signed up for your newsletter and then started working through some of your stuff. But I was like, hey, thank you. Like you've answered so many of my questions. Like I'm so grateful. But we started having our talks quite a while ago. But I learned a lot of GUI stuff too. You covered, which helped me grasp some of the basic stuff at how. And actually, some of your beautiful GUI post was so different than how I thought about GUIs. It made me understand controls better and what how you can do stuff, cool stuff.
Yeah, it is still one of my more popular posts, that's for sure, as well as the one that tells you how to easily make a script that logs you into websites.
Yeah.
And some of it with the web scraping stuff and with how to log into any website is probably getting dated as the internet evolves and security becomes more and more of an issue, but it's still relevant and you can still use the teachings in those, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't remember how long after we started talking where you decided that you wanted to make a site as well.
You absolutely inspired me. It wasn't that long. It was at first I was like, yeah, because at the time I knew very little about especially object-oriented stuff. But then I think I don't remember this honestly, but it makes sense. You probably mentioned, because I know you've told me this several times since then, was you forced yourself to answer questions on the forum so you would learn more about AutoHotkey. And I think that honestly was why I decided to start making videos and have a site, was to force myself to pick a topic and learn it. And that I like helping people, but I love having it documented where more people can later learn, from it.
Yeah, and I do remember because I was actively still building my site and finding out which way I wanted to go with it. So you also had to listen to me talk about WordPress and how to do that.
You helped me a lot on that stuff. Yeah.
And then I think I do think you already had some hosting that you were using.
I did. Yes.
And then we put WordPress on it, and there.
I still have that recording where you helped me walk through how to set up WordPress and the different plugins you used. I actually set up one just the other day, and still, I didn't put it in the source directory. I put it in a different subdirectory, so it's, from what you taught me, was not as easy to hack. But that was fun. Now I've gotten, well, actually no, I shouldn't say that. I now do videos a lot, but I haven't been actually posting them on my site as much. I'm just recording videos. But when it's specific to a topic that I have a page on or something, then and there's code involved, then I'll make a post about it.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. And I'd say WordPress for me was, I remember back in the day when I was sitting in my parents' basement and trying to code and whatever, different types of stuff. And I dabbed a little in front page, whichever version it was.
Yeah, I used to use that,
to build a website. And it was fun, but this time when I actually found WordPress and installed that and saw how, I'd say, easy it actually is to manage and have a website. And it might be originally a blogging software, but it is just a website manager. I can't put it any other way. It is. I know my company went out of their way to buy something for our internal network, so we can watch whichever internal news we have. And they paid an arm and a leg for it. And I saw it and I was like, what's that? It looks like WordPress from the front end. I didn't even see the back end.
Yeah.
And I looked at the source code under the pages. Fair enough. It was a PHP controlled thing that was offering up these pages. And it's like, oh, they must have chosen WordPress. And I asked someone who knew, and they hadn't. And I learned that instead of using the open source WordPress that is used on almost, I don't know the percentage, but on a lot of pages on a worldwide basis with developers out the yin yang.
Yeah. So many free plugins. I mean, it's amazing what's available. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still to this day distraught almost over they not doing that, because the company could have spared themselves so much headaches and so much money for that matter.
No. But the one thing caveat I will throw out there, just a little nitpicky, I don't know if did you see the new editor, like the default editor that WordPress now uses? Like, I can't even use it. I mean, you can revert to the classic, so I'm like, okay, but like that new version, like, well, I don't know why they made that the default, right? That shouldn't be the default.
It's their hope of this elemental dragging thing being the new, you know, the new black. Because, hey, nobody should actual code. It's much better if they just drag boxes.
That's interesting.
I like that more. And that's the exact idea here. So instead of putting in sections and doing things in what looks like a text editor, you're instead dragging whatever element you want. And it looks good, and it's probably well accepted throughout. But
well, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know either. But I'm saying probably because I think they've used so much time on it and had so many beta testers and stuff like that. So. So it should at least be something for someone.
But you know, it when you described it, it reminded me of the whole difference between like Blue Prism or Automate anything or everything, whatever it is. You know, they use GUIs, whereas AutoHotkey is the syntax. You're writing syntax, and of course, that's why you and I both prefer the older version of WordPress, because we're used to writing code and doing stuff. Whereas you're probably right, like a lot of other people want a GUI drag and drop, and I don't have to see any sort of code. But man, I don't know how you start troubleshooting stuff when you can't look at the code.
No, but yeah, that's it's nice that it's easily accessible. Of course, but yeah, I'd say I'm just happy that it was so easy to put something out there so I could share my AutoHotkey passion. And I know it was the same for you. That
absolutely.
And even though I think that the basis of our sites are the same, the way that we have managed to make them look different is just... I actually like it quite a lot. Because,
it's funny because I even stole your theme, right?
That's
I installed your theme, and but you're right. I mean, it's easy to not mess with them, but be very creative and structure them a little differently. And they're obviously we do things. I mean, I'm just mostly, like I said, I'm mostly making videos, and then I'll paste the source code. But it's cool stuff.
Yeah, but the way you structured all of your resources on your page, it's quite accessible, and I'd say you're not in doubt of where to find what might be the right word. Where I've kept more in the blog kind of idea, where a post just comes after the other, on a different page. But whereas with you have at least done some things to kind of group your resources together.
It reminded me though of what I was saying with like on YouTube. Like I have themes of topics that like, oh, here's stuff with Excel, here's stuff with regular expressions, and here's stuff with Outlook and whatever, and web scraping is a big one. And yours are much, I think, often more about that specific functionality of something instead of the overall theme, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest how to describe the differences between our sites. Yeah, cool. Let's get along here because we've been, I think, an hour already.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, the rest are actually, I think, are pretty fast, right? So Scrummel's 1 hour software. It's a great resource for free open source stuff. You can give them some money. Actually, do you have a donate? I think you do, because I sent you some money at one point on your site. You have a way to donate to give you some money on PayPal or something, right? Somewhere.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
No.
You, like me, get so much money coming in that you just don't even bother. Yeah. I don't think I don't know if I even have the link on my site. I don't know. I have one somewhere, but it's on my YouTube videos, but I don't know if it's on my site. But anyway, Scrommel, it's open source stuff, but you can donate some money. The great thing about a lot of the stuff is it's very compartmentalized. There's lots of great specific examples that you can, of course, just borrow and use, but it's a great way if you're trying to learn a concept because it's so bite-sized and so concise that you can granted, I don't think he actually annotates a lot of it, so you don't understand how it's working, but it's still really good examples of interacting with the Windows API and grabbing different things. And there's I'd say 200-300 examples probably.
Yeah. And I really do like the resource that it is. It is kind of a great way to point at that and see what you can do with AutoHotkey without an in-depth programming type knowledge.
Right.
Here is a guy who has sat down, used a lot of time on AutoHotkey for sure, but he has done so many small things where some of them you probably would never have thought up yourself. Agreed. But in other cases, you don't need to go out and reinvent the wheel or whatever you call it, because he has already made something that does almost that, because he has so many examples of something that's written from start to finish and is still working. Yep. And he made them years ago. Yep. And that's what I love. If people are, let's say, at their office job or whatever they have, and they're like, can I access my camera and grab the images on it or whatever? He would have done it. He would be able to go to his site and find an example of how to do that. Or,
I remember one which it blew me. It like you said, it opened my mind to what AutoHotkey could do. He had it where I think it was called like fences or something, but he took the built-in calculator in Windows and allowed you to basically like stop certain things from showing up in the calculator, right? And it was just like, how in the world is this thing, but that's when I started realizing how tightly connected AutoHotkey is to Windows and how you can change the functionality of Windows tools and programs. Really, really cool stuff. Okay, so the two LinkedIn groups, one of those is actually Jackie and mine. I think it's the second one. And then the other one it's a bigger group. But honestly, those are I would say it's a great place to be a member of. The vast majority of stuff you'll see on both those groups are me posting things about like the upcoming webinar. Honestly, not many people share a lot there, but it's cool to be a member, especially to have it on your resume. I would definitely recommend anybody who wants to get any sort of work with AutoHotkey is put it in your LinkedIn profile, right? Because it just
someone could reach out just by you having that. Yeah,
that's right. Actually, I got that side job I was asking you when we first started the call, the web scraping job. They found me because I posted a video where I had scraped data from LexisNexis like 8 years ago. And the guy saw it. It was specific on LexisNexis web scraping, and he didn't know me from anywhere else. He wrote me. He's like, "Hey, I seen you done this. Can you help me do this?" But you just never know, right? So I think having it in your profile, mentioning that actually I would put AutoHotkey in your LinkedIn profile. I'd put RPA and then spell it out, robotic process automation, and then maybe like desktop automation in there. And if you're looking for work and stuff, it might be a great way to get it. But also join one or both of these groups, right? There's no cost, so it's a good way to have it on your resume. There's 5 that I've listed. I think there's a couple more, but there are 5 groups on Facebook. Trying to remember. Yeah. I think this one. Let's just click it.
Yeah, that's for the main AutoHotkey page, right? I don't know where it showed up.
Yeah, it is. It's on the other screen. Hold on. Let me go in because Jackie and I have a group. And it's this one, which is, it's honestly, I think now it might be the biggest Facebook group. Oh, and look, one person wants to join. I'll add him here in a minute. But there's, I think, 430 something members. 444. So that's the AHK automation. So that's the biggest one. Now, granted, you'll see a lot of people asking questions here. So that interesting.
On
I don't see it.
Just the one AutoHotkey one, right? Facebook AutoHotkey.
One? Oh, okay. Yeah. Was that what it was?
It should be that one.
But it's AHK automation.
I don't know why it's going to that one. You have something different maybe in behind the link.
Well, let me go back. Yeah, I don't. I'll double check it and post it.
Try and go back again, because I actually just think you have the link for links down in your shortcuts.
Well, there's
that one, right?
This is the main one.
Yeah,
but I don't think is that ours?
Yeah, maybe. No, I at least know there is a main one, but that's not it.
Right. It's this top one, which I don't think it's even listed there. So let me add it. Is our group?
Yeah.
Because moderate group members. Maybe under members here I can say admins. We're admins and moderators. There you are. Okay, this is our group. But let me add it into this list. Oh, that is it right there. That was it, right?
Yeah, that's the one you're on now. That's our. Yeah. That's ours. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our group. I actually see. I've noticed we've had a nice steady increase in number of members, and more and more I'll see people asking for help there and posting things. To me, honestly, it's just kind of cool connecting with other people, in a group that are similar, have similar interests. I wouldn't necessarily go here for searching for how to do things, but you can, right? People ask questions and answer questions.
Sure.
But the other groups on Facebook are the same way. There's one which that was the initial one. That's the overall just liking the AutoHotkey program, right? Yeah. This is the program, and there's an actual AutoHotkey. What's it called? The one that Jody F and Tank they came up with a different name for it, right? I think, which was
hkscript.org.
Yeah, I think there's one on that.
Yeah, there we go. You also have that one there, yeah. But one is a group and the other one is a page.
Right.
So there's that difference. Yeah. And the page one is it's quite active. I'm also an admin on that one.
Oh, are you? I didn't know that. Cool.
And yeah, it gets a few messages here and there, let's say as well. But yeah, I don't know how many. I don't see it increasing that quickly in likes, but at least it has likes. So.
Oh, this is my other. I had set up one, and then I actually tried to get rid of it. No, I'm confused. I don't know.
Yeah. You know what? I think that we have probably looked at all the things that we need.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. So those are obviously there are other resources out there, but I would say what we've talked about covers a good like 95% of all the main sources out there. It's
probably
it's a vast majority of things associated with AutoHotkey and resources.
Yeah, and of course they'll link out a bit, and there are also some other pages, and there are some very well hidden gems out there as well. I can't remember all of them, but yeah, there are some, but they will not have much more than maybe a single thing or two.
Right.
So yeah, because what is it? Lifehacker has a few ones on AutoHotkey as well and stuff like that.
Yeah, and generally those are concept-wise. They often show you how to do it, but you're right. It's not anything like the rest.
No.
But awesome. All right, I think that was a extensive review of various resources and why you'd go to which one. The only thing I'll add on to this, just because I know there's so many people like the admins on the AutoHotkey forum, and they do so much work, is before you post a question on the forum or any place, check a few of the sources to see if your question's already been asked and been answered. And then if you do post onto any of these sources again, instead of just saying, how do I click this, right? Think through exactly like what you're asking someone to do. Give them, especially if you have a really big amount of code, if you can break it down to just the 5 or 7 lines that are actually relevant, if that's possible, break it down to that so you can be very specific on what's not working, talk about the result, the error you're getting, make sure you include the version of AutoHotkey you're using, maybe your OS as well, just to make sure I'm running Windows 64-bit or 32-bit or whatever, right? The more work you do, I think it's a great phrase. A small question requires a very long answer, and a long question requires a very short answer. So the more specific you are with your question, the more likely you are that someone will actually answer it, and you'll get an actual answer, that makes sense. Versus if you ask, "How do I click this?" People have no idea what you're trying to do and what you're doing, and it's back and forth of like, "Well, click what?" And then they say, "Well, I'm trying to click this button." Well, what button? Give me the pay, whatever. It's so. Search to see if there's already a solution out there. Develop some resources of friends also. So like I happen to be having a call with Jackie today, so I waited for the call to ask him. But I have 4 or 5 friends that I might have written to and said, hey, because that pop-up box that came up, like I don't even know how to search for it, right? To see if there's a solution out there, because I don't know what it's called, and I couldn't describe it well. So it's things like that like you can run by, first check the forums and all these sources, then ask your colleagues that you might know, and then go back and post a question to one of them, but keep it specific, give the code if you have an example, especially if it's a website that people can access, give them the URL, show them exactly what you're trying to do. And generally speaking, people are amazing around AutoHotkey. I think there's a lot of actually, I reading this book, and it talked about how experts who take to a subject really well and understand it thoroughly without having to struggle have a much harder time explaining concepts than people who struggled through it, right? And part of it is because they don't feel any empathy for other people, right? So they thought it was easy, and so it should be easy for everybody. And I think a lot of people in the AutoHotkey community, they went through the struggle. We're not programmers. We never learned. So I think that's one of the reasons why they're more willing to help other people, is because the vast majority of us were noobs at one point and understand how confusing something simple can be. Yeah,
that could be a really good take from that. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. Because we are really having a hard time defining who we as a community are, because There are a few people who are full-time programmers. There are a few people who are studying it. There's a lot of people who has picked it up for one reason or another. And a few of those have stayed around long enough to start helping others. And it just means that we have a community of people who are willing to help and also able to help with almost all that's needed. And if you do a little bit of work beforehand, I remember I had a big study I made on some specific topics on AutoHotkey. If you have so much, it was on data, but still, if you had posted code and you had so much text, I took that as meaning you had a thorough explanation of your issue. You had an 82% same-day answering rate. Just because if you had posted your code and asked a filling question, the chance of you being answered within hours were just astronomical compared to just asking a question without actually doing anything beforehand. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're done. We're good.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That was a good call. I'll see you next week, Jackie. See you guys soon.
Yeah. Bye. Happy coding.
Happy coding. Nice.